For 15 years, she cleaned their computers, emptied their trash, and listened to them mock her broken English. But when hackers brought down the entire corporate network and millions were at stake, this invisible cleaning lady's fingers flew across the keyboard with deadly precision that made everyone realize they'd been working alongside a ghost from the NSA's most classified cyber warfare unit. Welcome to the Untold Stories, where we discover heroes hiding in plain sight. Before we dive into this incredible story of hidden expertise and forgotten valor, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be shared with the world, hit that subscribe button right now. These are the tales that remind us the most powerful warriors often wear the most invisible uniforms, protecting us from threats we never see coming. Let's begin this amazing journey together into the shadows. The Dynacorp Tower stood 47 floors above Manhattan, housing one of America's largest defense contractors. Every night after the executives went home to their mansions, Maria Santos arrived for her shift with a cart full of cleaning supplies and a quiet determination that nobody ever noticed. For 15 years, she had been the ghost who moved through their offices, invisible to everyone who mattered in the corporate hierarchy above. Maria spoke English with a heavy accent that made the younger employees snicker behind her back when she passed their cubicles. They assumed she was just another immigrant cleaning lady, grateful for whatever work she could find. They joked about her broken sentences, her shy demeanor, her habit of keeping her eyes down when executives walked by. What they never realized was that Maria understood every word they said, and much more than they ever imagined. Every evening at exactly 6 p.m., Maria would badge into the building through the service entrance, push her cart to the freight elevator, and begin her rounds on the top floors where Dynacorp's most sensitive operations took place. Defense contracts worth billions of dollars, classified satellite technology, cybersecurity protocols that protected national infrastructure, all of it passed through the offices that Maria cleaned each night. The executives never paid attention to the quiet woman who emptied their wastebaskets and wiped down their computer screens while they worked late into the evening. They would continue their phone calls, discuss classified projects, and type sensitive passwords while Maria moved invisibly around their desks. To them, she was human furniture, part of the building's infrastructure that they took for granted, like the air conditioning or elevator systems. What nobody knew was that Maria Santos had spent 12 years as Senior Analyst for the NSA's Tailored Access Operations Unit, the most classified cyber warfare division in American intelligence. She had penetrated foreign government networks, disrupted terrorist communications, and defended critical infrastructure from nation-state attacks. Her clearance level was so high that her own existence had been classified above top secret for over a decade. Maria had walked away from that life in 2009, burned out from years of digital warfare and the constant pressure of protecting national security from shadows that most Americans would never know existed. She wanted anonymity, invisibility, a chance to disappear into ordinary life, where nobody would ask her to save the world again. The cleaning job at Dynacorp was supposed to be her retirement from the invisible war she had fought for so long. For 15 years, the arrangement had worked perfectly. Maria cleaned offices, collected her modest paycheck, and went home to her small apartment, where she tended to her plants and watched old movies. The executives at Dynacorp continued their work, completely unaware that their building housed one of the most dangerous cyber warriors the intelligence community had ever produced. It was the perfect cover, the ultimate hiding place in plain sight. Tuesday night, November 18th, started like any other evening shift for Maria. She badged in at 6 p.m., loaded her cart with supplies, and took the freight elevator to the 47th floor where Dynacorp's executive offices and server rooms were located. The building was mostly empty except for a few workaholics in the IT department and some junior analysts trying to impress their supervisors by working late into the evening hours. At exactly 9:47 p.m., while Maria was emptying waste baskets in the cybersecurity department, every computer screen in the building went black simultaneously. Emergency lighting kicked in as the main power systems automatically shut down to protect sensitive equipment. Then, one by one, the screens flickered back to life, displaying a message that made Maria's blood run cold. Your systems belong to us now. Dragon Protocol initiated. Dragon Protocol was a name that Maria recognized from her NSA days, an advanced, persistent threat developed by Chinese military hackers specifically designed to penetrate American defense contractors. It was sophisticated, ruthless, and nearly impossible to detect until it was too late. The hackers had spent months infiltrating Dynacorp's networks, mapping their systems, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike at their most valuable assets. Within minutes, panic spread through the building as employees realized that their entire network had been compromised. The IT department was in chaos, desperately trying to understand what was happening while watching helplessly as classified data began streaming out of their servers to unknown locations. Phone calls flooded in from the Pentagon, demanding answers that nobody at Dynacorp could provide about the massive security breach unfolding in real time. Maria dropped her cleaning supplies and moved toward the nearest workstation with the focus and purpose that would have shocked anyone who thought they knew her. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she accessed system diagnostics that no cleaning lady should have known existed. What she saw confirmed her worst fears. The hackers weren't just stealing data, they were targeting Dynacorp's defense contracts for America's most advanced missile guidance systems. The stolen technology would give foreign adversaries the ability to neutralize America's strategic deterrent capabilities, shifting the global balance of power and putting millions of American lives at risk. This wasn't just corporate espionage. It was an act of warfare that threatened national security at the highest levels. Maria realized that her peaceful retirement was over, and the skills she had tried to leave behind were desperately needed once again. As Maria worked frantically to understand the scope of the attack, she could hear security guards and IT personnel running through the hallways, shouting instructions and trying to coordinate a response that they were completely unprepared to handle. The hackers had anticipated corporate security measures, but they had no idea that their attack was being analyzed by someone with Maria's level of expertise and classified knowledge of their methods. Using techniques she had learned during her years at NSA, Maria began tracing the intrusion back through multiple proxy servers and encrypted tunnels that the hackers had established to mask their true location. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with muscle memory developed through thousands of hours of cyber warfare, navigating through layers of digital deception that would have taken the company's security team weeks to unravel properly. 23 minutes into the attack, Maria had identified the hackers' command and control infrastructure and was beginning to map their entire operation. But she could see that they were downloading terabytes of classified data at an alarming rate. If she didn't act quickly, America's most sensitive defense technologies would be in enemy hands within the hour, giving hostile nations capabilities that had taken decades and billions of dollars to develop. That's when David Chen, Dynacorp's chief information security officer, burst into the department and froze when he saw Maria typing furiously at a workstation that should have been locked down during the emergency. "Hey, what are you doing? You're not authorized to access those systems," he shouted, moving toward her with obvious suspicion and anger. But Maria didn't look up from the screen where lines of code were flowing like digital warfare in real time. "The hackers are using a zero-day exploit in your firewall's SSL inspection module," Maria said without looking away from her work, her accent suddenly much less pronounced than anyone had ever heard before. "They've established persistent backdoors in 17 critical systems and are exfiltrating classified missile guidance data through encrypted channels routed through servers in North Korea, Iran, and Russia. We have approximately 37 minutes." David stared at Maria in complete shock, unable to process what he was hearing from the woman he had dismissed as just another invisible cleaning lady for the past 5 years. "How do you? What are you talking about? Who are you?" he stammered, but Maria was already 3 steps ahead, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards as she began implementing countermeasures that Chen had never seen before, using techniques that seemed impossible for a civilian to know. "My name is Maria Santos, formerly Senior Analyst, NSA Tailored Access Operations," she said calmly, while simultaneously monitoring 18 different system processes and implementing advanced intrusion countermeasures. I have been tracking this threat group for 7 years. They call themselves Shadow Dragon, and they have successfully penetrated 14 major defense contractors over the past 18 months using variations of this exact attack methodology. Chen's mouth fell open as the implications of what Maria was telling him began to sink in. The NSA's Tailored Access Operations Unit was legendary in cybersecurity circles, the most elite cyber warfare team in American intelligence, responsible for the most sophisticated offensive and defensive operations in cyberspace. The idea that one of their senior analysts had been working as a cleaning lady in his building for 15 years was almost impossible to believe. I need administrative access to your core network infrastructure immediately, Maria continued, her voice carrying an authority that Chen had never heard from her before. The hackers are attempting to pivot from your systems into the Pentagon's classified network through your secure VPN connection. If they succeed, they will have access to operational plans for every active military deployment worldwide. This escalates beyond corporate espionage to national security crisis. Chen fumbled for his phone to call his security team, but Maria placed a firm hand on his arm. No time for protocols. Every second we waste gives them deeper access to classified systems. Either trust me to stop this or watch your company become responsible for the largest intelligence breach in American history. Her eyes met his with an intensity that made him realize this woman was deadly serious about threats he couldn't even begin to comprehend. With trembling hands, Chen entered his administrative credentials, giving Maria complete access to Dynacorp's network infrastructure. What happened next was like watching a master pianist perform a complex symphony, except the piano was a network of supercomputers and the music was code that could save or destroy national security. Maria's fingers moved across multiple keyboards simultaneously, orchestrating a digital counterattack of breathtaking complexity. Within minutes, Maria had identified and isolated the 17 compromised systems, severed the hackers' command and control channels, and begun implementing what she called active defense protocols, techniques so advanced that Chen didn't even recognize the software she was using. "Where did you get these tools?" he asked in amazement, as he watched her deploy cybersecurity measures that seemed years ahead of anything in the corporate world. "I wrote them," Maria replied, while simultaneously monitoring the hackers' increasingly desperate attempts to maintain their foothold in Dynacorp systems. Most of these countermeasures are still classified, but desperate times require desperate measures. She paused her typing for just a moment to look directly at Chen. "What I'm about to do will save your company and protect national security, but it will also end my anonymity. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Chen nodded, without fully understanding what Maria was asking, but knowing instinctively that she was his only hope of stopping a catastrophe that was already spiraling beyond his control. Maria returned her attention to the screens, her expression growing more intense as she prepared to deploy what she called the nuclear option, cyber warfare techniques that would not only stop the current attack, but send a message to hostile nations about America's hidden capabilities. For the next 47 minutes, Maria waged digital warfare against some of the most sophisticated hackers on the planet, turning their own tools against them and systematically dismantling an operation that had taken them months to establish. She traced their attack back through 7 countries, identified their base of operations, and began implementing countermeasures that would prevent them from ever targeting American infrastructure again. At 11:34 p.m., the last of the infiltrated systems was secured, and Maria finally leaned back in her chair as the immediate crisis passed. Every piece of stolen data had been recovered, every backdoor had been eliminated, and the hacker's entire network had been mapped and neutralized. But more importantly, she had prevented classified missile guidance technology from falling into enemy hands, potentially saving countless American lives. Chen stared at the woman who had just saved his company and possibly his country, struggling to reconcile the quiet cleaning lady he thought he knew with the cyber warfare expert who had just demonstrated capabilities that belonged in Hollywood movies rather than corporate offices. "Maria," he said quietly, "who are you really? I mean, Why are you here? Why work as a cleaner when you have skills like this? Maria was quiet for a long moment, her eyes focused on the screens that still showed traces of the digital battle she had just fought and won. Because I spent 12 years fighting in the shadows, protecting people who would never know my name or understand the threats I neutralized on their behalf. I wanted to be normal, invisible, forgotten. I wanted to clean offices instead of cleaning up after cyber wars that could destroy civilization as we know it. But tonight proved that you can't really retire from this kind of work, Chen observed, beginning to understand the burden that Maria had been carrying in silence for 15 years. The threats never stop, and there aren't enough people with your level of expertise to handle them all. Maria nodded sadly, knowing that her cover was blown and her peaceful anonymity was gone forever because of the choice she had made to protect her adopted country. Within hours, representatives from the NSA, FBI, and Pentagon had arrived at Dynacorp Tower to debrief Maria and assess the scope of the attack she had neutralized. Her former colleagues weren't surprised to learn where she had been hiding. They had respected her decision to disappear and had never tried to contact her, but they were amazed by her decision to break cover and expose herself to save classified defense technology from enemy hands. Maria, said Director Sarah Walsh from the NSA's Cybersecurity Directorate, a woman who had worked alongside Maria during some of their most sensitive operations, "We need you back. The threats have evolved, and frankly, there aren't many people with your combination of technical expertise and operational experience. What happened tonight proves that you're still the best we have at what you do. Will you consider coming back to the fight?" Maria looked around the offices she had cleaned for 15 years, thinking about the executives who had never noticed her, the employees who had mocked her accent, and the invisible service she had provided while carrying secrets that could reshape the global balance of power. "I'll consult," she said finally, "but I keep my day job. These people need protection whether they know it or not, and someone has to watch over them from the shadows." 6 months later, Maria still arrived every evening at 6 p.m. to clean the offices at Dynacorp Tower. But now, the executives knew exactly who she was and what she had done to save their company. They treated her with a respect that bordered on reverence, understanding that the quiet woman emptying their trash cans was one of America's most valuable intelligence assets, still protecting them from threats they couldn't even imagine. The official story was that Dynacorp had successfully repelled a sophisticated cyber attack using advanced security protocols. Maria's role remained classified, her identity protected, her heroism invisible to everyone except those with the highest security clearances. She preferred it that way, continuing to serve her country from the shadows while maintaining the cover that had protected her for so long, a guardian angel that nobody expected. Today, Maria Santos continues to work the night shift at Dynacorp Tower, quietly protecting America's most sensitive defense technologies from an invisible army of cyber warriors who never sleep. The executives finally understand that they're building houses one of the most dangerous women in the intelligence community, a ghost who chose to mop floors instead of commanding cyber warfare operations, until the night her country needed her skills one more time. So remember the story the next time you see someone cleaning offices, serving coffee, or working in the background of your daily life. You never know who they really are, what they've sacrificed, or what they're capable of when everything you take for granted is suddenly at risk. Heroes walk among us in the most invisible uniforms, protecting us from threats we never see coming. Subscribe if this story moved you. We'll see you in the next untold story of hidden courage.